As many of you guys probably already know, the first round of the NBA playoffs ended yesterday with the conclusion of the Jazz and Clippers series. Now, every time the playoffs roll around for sports fans, we experience unexpected things, upsets, surprises that we didn't see coming before the playoffs started. Today we'll be going over the biggest surprises from the first round of the NBA playoffs. Let's get right into it. Now, before we get started, I just wanted to say that these are just my opinion, but most of these I think that you guys will probably agree with. So the first thing that surprised me was the impact that JaVale McGee had on the Warriors and Joe Johnson had on the Jazz. JaVale McGee is known by most NBA fans and sports fans for being the star of Shaqtin' a Fool, and he's kind of a goof and he's kind of a screw up, and this is the image that we have gained of him through the years of Shaqtin' a Fool, through the years of not top 10s, and through the years of epic fails that he has produced. But in the first round of the Portland Blazers and the Golden State Warriors series, JaVale McGee was a key player, and in my opinion, he was the best post player behind Draymond Green. He isn't the starter, but coming off the bench, he puts up some massive numbers. Or not massive, but great numbers for him, and he had some big dunks that I got hyped about. Even though I'm not a Warriors fan, I got pretty hyped about some of the dunks that I saw from him. He was a human highlight film in the first round of the playoffs, and he provided some much needed energy off the Warriors bench. Moving on to Joe Johnson's production, as many of you guys probably know if you have been watching the NBA playoffs, Joe Johnson hit the big game-winning shot against the Clippers to take Game 1 in LA. And as many of you also probably know, this series went to 7 games, so that shot could have very well decided the fate of the series. Joe Johnson was also clutch in all the other games after that, putting up big numbers, and in the regular season, he wasn't really putting up these numbers. He stepped up big in the playoffs, and that's why his name is ISO Joe. He's an elite scorer, and both of these players stepped up big time in the playoffs. The second surprise, or not surprise, was Blake Griffin's injury. Now, honestly, we had to see this coming. The Clippers are cursed. It happens every year. Something goes wrong for them. And this year, Blake got a broken leg, foot, something. I forgot what the injury was, but Blake got injured. And if you've seen the injury, or the replay of when he got injured, it doesn't really look like much happened, but it did in fact end Blake's season, and unfortunately it probably decided the series for the Clippers. Now, this was a surprise to me, but at the same time it wasn't a surprise. Like I said before, the Clippers are cursed, and unfortunately I hate to see playoff series decided by injuries and by health problems, but Blake Griffin's injury did have a huge effect, and it was very unexpected, so this was the second surprise. The third surprise that surprised me in the playoffs was how two teams blew 20-plus point leads. I think the Pacers blew a 26-point lead, and the Blazers blew a 23-point lead. It might have even been more than that. I know the Pacers was 26. I'm not sure what the Blazers was, but the Pacers blew a 26-point lead to the Cavs, and I think that this was the biggest in NBA history, or tied for the biggest, something around there, which is absolutely ridiculous. And unfortunately the Pacers did end up getting swept, and maybe if they hadn't blown this lead, it would have shifted momentum, maybe allowed them to even win another one, push the series to 6 games maybe. But unfortunately they did get swept, and this was probably the worst performance for them because they blew that huge lead. The Blazers also blew a huge lead to the Warriors. I was watching this game live, and I had to turn it off, honestly, because the Blazers were just very annoying. They were up by so much. I was getting hyped. Damian Lillard is my favorite player, for those of you who don't know. And unfortunately, the Blazers just allowed the Warriors to score and score and score. So these two huge leads that were blown in the first round of the playoffs are the next surprise. Now, the fourth surprise that I experienced in the NBA playoffs were the Cavs weren't dominant against the Pacers. Now, even though they did sweep them, if you guys watched any of the series, you'll notice that all of the games were pretty close. I mean, like I said before, the Pacers had a 26-point lead on the Cavs. The Cavs did not look into it. They did not look like the better team in this game until the very end. And besides this game, all of the other games were within like 5 points. The first game, game 1, was only won by 1 point. I mean, the Cavs' lack of ability to dominate a 7th seed is kind of concerning. I think that they will pick it up as they need to, and they did end up winning all those games. They stepped up when it mattered, but this could be a sign for the future, and it's definitely something to pay attention to. Now, the final unexpected event that took place for me in the first round of the playoffs was that the Celtics came back from down 2 games. Now, as many of you guys probably already know, I know I've said this a lot, but there's a lot of things that I'm just reiterating that you guys have probably heard, is that Isaiah Thomas' sister died the day before the playoffs started, I believe. And in my opinion, this is why the Celtics dropped down 2 games. And honestly, after they dropped the first 2 games at home, I didn't think that they were going to make it. I thought that they were going to get beat by the Bulls in the first round as a first seed. But whether the surprise was them dropping 2 games or them coming back from a 2-game deficit, this series was definitely a surprise for me, and I'm pretty sure it was for a lot of NBA fans. I feel bad for Isaiah Thomas, with all that he's been through, and I think that those first 2 games that the Celtics dropped were because Isaiah Thomas wasn't really into it. The team was probably not in a very good situation. The mindset wasn't right, but as we saw, they were able to regain their composure and come back in the series. Thank you guys so much for watching. Please leave any surprises that you thought were in the playoffs, unexpected things that you saw, and please leave your predictions for round 2 of the playoffs. Please like and subscribe if you enjoyed, and I will see you in my next video.